I'm going to show you how to use your starter kit to make one of these coasters. You've got some moulds in your kit. You may get a round one, may get a square, may get a hexagon. You'll have two anyway, so you've got room to play. I'm going to show you how to make a blue one. Just a simple, solid blue cast. Now you've got your base, which is your powders, and your liquids. You're going to use a mix ratio from your instructions that you've already read. That's going to give you 2.5 to 1. Once you've mixed it, it should be around the consistency of double cream. So if you haven't got scales, just make sure that by eye you're mixing the appropriate quantities. I'm just going to use plastic cups and I'm going to use scales. So first things first, shake your liquids. You always put the liquids into the vessel first. You're going to add the powders to the liquids. That avoids clumping and lumps. So if you've left your kit on the shelf for a while, these will need a shake. Hopefully though, you've been so excited that you've already got them out of the box, you give them a little shake anyway. So the first thing I'm going to do is weigh out sufficient for my coaster. I've already weighed my coaster. I know it weighs around 200 kilos. So breaking that down into rough ratios, I'm going to put about 50 grams of liquids into my cup. Slightly over, so we can just tip it back into the bottle. The more accurate you are at this stage, the more luck you're going to have with your piece. Obviously, once you get more excited and develop your own styles using Jesmonite, you can change those ratios around. We rarely advise that you make it thinner, simply because it changes its qualities. When we sell the product, we recommend 2.5 to 1 because it gives you a really solid set in an accurate time scale. We know of the quality of the piece once it's finished, breakages, things like that. But you might want to explore using aggregates, additives into your piece, and you might need to thicken it up. You can use the mix ratio and adjust it to suit you. So 2.5 to 1 today. I'm going to use blue pigment. Now I'm going to put the pigment into the liquids at this stage because I'm not trying to make a marbled piece. I want a solid block colour. So I have dry cups and I have some blue. Maximum pigment addition of blue is approximately 20 grams per kilo. So for this I'm literally using a couple of grams. So I'm going to use the tiny pipette head to control that into my liquids. Now blue is very strong. Do not spill this. If you spill it, you're going to be clearing it up for weeks, so take care. Next thing is to mix them together. You can see how strong that pigment is because already it's colouring the base. I'm actually going to add a little bit more to this because I want to intensify the colour slightly more. You can do it though, you can play with it as much as you want. And remember, you've only got 3 colours here. Using the Jesmonite pigment range, you can literally colour match to any colour you want. So explore it. You can take the basic pigments, mix them, work out your own mix ratios, work out your own recipes, and match RAL colours, Pantone colours. Really, the world's your oyster as far as colour is concerned. So, mixing thoroughly the pigments into the liquids. The next stage will be to weigh out your powders. Again, the more accurate you are at this stage, the better, but if you haven't got really small increment scales, don't panic. You can feel the weight, you can see the quantity in the cup, and you know approximately how much you should be putting into your other vessel. So I'm going to weigh my powders out. This product has no aggregate in it, so it's smooth and fine like talcum powder. If you're not going to use all of your mix today, seal the bag. Store it at room temperature. Don't let it get damp, don't let it freeze. So, the next tip, never put your liquids into your powders, always your powders into your liquids. I'm going to do this slowly and carefully, small amounts at a time. And if you can, mix as you go. When you come to using larger quantities, when you've really got your teeth into Jesmonite, you may need a friend to help you use a power tool to mix. But for this, all I need is a lollipop stick and a steady hand. So by continually mixing, I'm hopefully eradicating any lumps that may occur. You can see you might panic and think you've made a terrible mistake because it looks very thick and lumpy, but give it time. Give the acrylic liquids time to mix into the powders. A little top tip, scrape your spatula around the side of the cup. That will help break up any lumps and distribute the powders into the liquids. Now, when you think, oh, that'll do, I've finished it, mix it some more. You can never go wrong with over mixing. You've got time to do this. You've got a pot life of around 15 to 20 minutes. So in a normal day, typical British summer, you should be able to work this well until it's really mixed in. I can start to see now that the lumps are going. The distribution into the mix is really even. And as I say, you've got a sort of pouring thick double cream consistency. Because I've put my powders into my liquids, I haven't got clumps of powders around the bottom. But be careful, check, scrape your spatula down the sides, make sure that you've incorporated everything. If you're really worried, you can always do the double tub kit trick, pour this back into another clean vessel to make sure you haven't left anything at the bottom. So scrape around. The next thing I'm going to do is brush some into my mould. That's because I want to get rid of air. So tap your cup first. Any air that you've got in your cup will rise to the top, and then a small quantity into your mould. Now this small quantity now I can brush around with a small brush. If you haven't got a brush, roll it round, but I would recommend using a brush. Make sure it's clean and dry. If it's not dry, you will get streaks and that will be disappointing. So I'm going to evenly distribute the material now across the mould into all the corners and crevices. Now because this is flexible, I can peel it away in order to get it down there, and I can make sure that I've got nice coverage around the whole piece. Another little tip, once you've done that, making sure you've covered all the sides, nice and evenly, do some little home vibration. So tap it and slap it. That just makes sure that any air that you've got in there is rising to the top and you can get rid of it. So I know that I've coated my mould, it's nice and even, hopefully I've got rid of all the air. Next stage is to slowly pour in the remainder of your mix. Now as you're pouring, if you want to make sure that you haven't got any air, just keep distributing it and tapping it. You may see little bubbles rising to the top, and that's what you need. You need to get rid of them and out of the surface of your piece. Now, I'm going to fill this just to below the meniscus of the mould so it doesn't make a mess and overflow. And when I demould it, it'll be nice and flat. All I need to do is to sand off that last little piece around the edge, and it should sit flat on a desk or table. So I'm slapping and tapping the mould so you can see the small bubbles of air rising. By blowing them, you can pop them, and you know that your piece is going to demould well. Now I've got a little bit left in here. I'm not going to waste it because I may want to get more adventurous and try a terrazzo piece. I've already done this before, and I'm going to put the last of the material onto some plain plastic and brush that out, and then another day I can crack that off into whatever shapes and sizes I want and use that as its own addition as an aggregate into the AC100. Next, I'm going to wash my brush. If you don't wash your brush, you'll have to put it in the bin because you're never going to get that off. So wash it, dry it, it's ready to go another time. Plastic cup, bin, lollipop stick if you want to wash that up. So, very simple, straightforward starter. You've made one coaster, one bold colour, you've got some bits left over to explore another day, but give that now 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, test it with your fingernail on the back. It should be quite warm to the touch and you shouldn't be able to mark it. After 40 minutes, you are guaranteed to be able to demould your piece. Be careful though, If you use white and you've used too much white, it can slow your set time down, so be very wary. Do not exceed the 20 grams per kilo in white addition. I'd say at 15 you're still going to get a nice bright white. This blue piece though, it's quite a warm day today. I'm hoping to be able to demould that in the next 20 to half an hour. If I can't, I'm going to leave it for a little bit longer, but I'm not going to leave it overnight. If I leave it overnight, I could get some sweating, I could get some water marking and staining. So with AC100 it's a really good idea to use the piece, wait for the correct set time, demould, and then you can get the air around it. So I've waited now 20 minutes to see if my mould is ready to demould. It's cool to the touch, it has reached a nice warm temperature, but now it's starting to cool back down. I'm happy that it's ready to demould. Another really good way of testing is just to strike it. If you can score it and scratch it as opposed to moving it or damaging the back surface, then it should be ready to demould. On a cold day you may have to wait up to 40 minutes, but don't wait too long. If you leave this overnight, it may sweat and then it may mark with some water marking on the front face, which you don't want. So, because we've poured it, we've got a little meniscus of material that's risen up around the sides. That crumbly part is disturbing the back face. I'm just going to scrape it off with a nice clean blade now. Because the material is quite soft, this is the perfect time for any sanding or sorting that you want to do, because otherwise it takes an awful lot more elbow grease. It's also cleaning your mould up for the next time you use it. Now, because this is quite fresh, this is when it's at its most delicate. So be careful, don't be heavy-handed or brutish with it because you will break it. Just peel the mould away slowly and carefully. Try and do it though in one continuous move. If you've made a really large piece and then you demould it with a pause partway through, as you change your position to pull again, you may give it a line across, so be very careful. But this is only tiny, it's really easy and straightforward, which is why it's in your starter kit. So, taking the sides away evenly, and then just pull it away. Now, a little top tip, you can use your mould as a drying rack to get air around the piece, so you can get air into the front face and into the back. And so, within another hour or so, this will be nice and hard and cool and ready for you to decide what else you want to do with it. If you want to buff it, this is a good stage to do that too. Use a cotton cloth and buff it, and you can pick up a nice sheen on it. If you want to leave it matte, just leave it alone. Don't sand it and don't rub it.